Hello, I'm Adrian, and today we're taking an in-depth look at the Winter Soldier's fighting style in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Bucky Barnes, or the Winter Soldier, is a character that really stood out in the MCU as soon as Captain America's second film premiered. It presented him as an unstoppable force of nature and gave him arguably the best fight sequences in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Whether it be his final fight against Captain America or the famous highway fight, they were both intricately choreographed and excellently realized. If you want to see just those fight scenes analyzed move by move, I invite you to check out the respective episodes on Fight Scene Breakdown, available on the playlist in the description below. It also goes without saying that if you're a fan of action films and superheroes, I highly recommend subscribing to my channel, as I've already analyzed plenty of other great Marvel characters including Captain America, Iron Man, Black Panther, and I most recently analyzed a big bad villain of them all, Thanos. But today we will be focusing exclusively on the Winter Soldier. The goal of these videos is to figure out just how many fighting styles our combatant is familiar with by analyzing the specific moves featured in their fight scenes and pairing them with the martial art or fighting style which most aptly represents those moves. There's obviously a ton of crossover in martial art techniques, since the technique that is present in one fighting style may also be present in another. But in order to not give combatants multiple fighting styles for the sake of variety, I've instead opted to list the most apt fighting style that best represents a particular technique or group of techniques. Also, there are various degrees of knowing a fighting style, and although one may know elements of something, this doesn't mean I'm saying the fighter I'm talking about is a master in every style I mentioned. This analysis relies solely on what has been seen of the Winter Soldier in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In other words, what has been shown in Captain America: The First Avenger, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Captain America: Civil War, and Avengers: Infinity War. Fighting styles that Bucky may know in the comics or any other medium do not count. Without further ado, let's take a look at how many fighting styles the Winter Soldier knows in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In the same vein as Captain America, the Winter Soldier relies quite a bit on his main superhero attribute. Cap has his shield, and Winter Soldier has his highly advanced prosthetic arm. Sure, he uses it to do superpowered punches every now and then, as he totally should, no question there. But I'm talking about all the other uses he has come up with for it. And those include using the arm to catch Cap's shield, throwing people like Kleenex boxes, blocking enemy fire, creating escape routes, and even using it to stop his momentum. He comes up with plenty of other uses for his arm besides just using it to punch people, and it works tremendously well in his favor. Since no one fighting style relies on using a grafted mechanical arm, we will instead give him the fighting style of bionic arm. But you guys aren't here to just find out about how useful his arm is. You want to know the exact kind of techniques he uses in his fighting style, and for that we will begin with the martial art, which perfectly encapsulates a grand majority of his moves and fits really well with the background of the character. If you've seen my other fighting styles videos, you might have heard of this martial art before, but if you haven't, we're going to be breaking it down extensively during this episode. And I'm talking about the Russian martial art, Sistema. Sistema is a very complete martial art which includes hand-to-hand combat, grappling, knife fighting, and firearms training. There are various training drills and sparring sessions in a typical class. Sistema even incorporates a little of judo's philosophy in using an attacker's momentum against them by controlling the 6 body levers, which are the elbows, neck, knees, waist, ankles, and shoulders through striking and weapon techniques. It's extremely popular among police and military forces. Returning to Bucky, he just so happens to have been captured by Hydra and turned into their brainwashed super soldier and was trained extensively in Russia, so it makes complete sense that he would exhibit this fighting style. If you think back to the highway fight scene, you will most likely remember his awesome knife exchange with Captain America. While Cap was busy trying to not get stabbed, Bucky was effortlessly stabbing, slashing, and adjusting his technique. As mentioned earlier, Sistema has a big emphasis in knife combat, not just learning how to disarm them, but in how to use them as well. As far as a hand-to-hand combat goes, what makes Sistema pretty similar to Krav Maga is that it too displays plenty of techniques from other martial arts. Look at these Spetsnaz training drills, which demonstrate Sistema technique. Besides looking like the opening training scene in Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, you can see these guys employ all kinds of techniques seen in different martial arts. You got your influence of Taekwondo kicks, your karate spinning back fists, your judo throws. It's all incorporated into Sistema. This is one of the many reasons that the Russian martial art is called Sistema, or system. They view it as a complete set of concepts and training components to enhance one's life. Modern day Sistema actually does occasionally incorporate karate or taekwondo style punching for their drills, seen right here, and exhibited by Winter Soldier by more than a couple occasions in the films, and they even incorporate Western boxing style moves such as these hooks and crosses that Winter Soldier is also very fond of using. As a small aside, remember you can always spot boxing technique by where the other hand is placed when the punch is thrown. If it's right by the cheek, as seen here, you're looking at boxing technique. If it's right by your waist, you're looking at karate or taekwondo technique. However, one thing that is very particular to Sistema is the way you're taught to throw a Sistema punch. Instead of either torquing your body or twisting your wrist to give your punch power, you instead focus all your strength into basically the very last few seconds of your punch. All the strength is derived from a small quick movement with a barely there punch to the gut or the throat or any other target. Winter Soldier also exhibits this way of punching occasionally, as sometimes he barely moves his arm to land the technique. Since Winter Soldier more often than not demonstrates boxing and karate technique rather than proper Sistema technique, he will be getting these fighting styles as well. As mentioned earlier, an important part of Sistema is controlling the 6 body levers and targeting them, and Winter Soldier has definitely applied this concept in his hand-to-hand combat. Several of his holds and takedown maneuvers involve going straight for the throat and either choking his opponents or redirecting their head to slam them around. This is an extremely prevalent move seen in Sistema, where many of the takedowns end up slamming the person to the ground by manipulating their head and neck. Furthermore, a really cool and interesting technique that I spotted that was directly lifted from Sistema was this counter right here. Cap throws a quick roundhouse kick, and Winter Soldier counterattacks it by blocking the kick with a quick knee, and then extends that knee block to turn it into a quick side kick to Cap's standing leg, thus effectively knocking him down. Notice how the Sistema technique is virtually identical. You raise your knee to block the incoming kick and then extend it to trip the attacker. It should also be said that blocking kicks by raising your knee is also present in Muay Thai. While we're on the topic of kicking, Winter Soldier is also fond of using other kicks, including quick knee strikes, side kicks, drop kicks, and low roundhouses to knock his opponent to the ground. Although these kicks are seen in multiple martial arts, they still are included in several Sistema techniques. Even the famous drop kick that's usually associated with pro wrestling is taught in Sistema. But before we move on from kicks, there's one special kick I would like to highlight. A kick I honestly did not think was going to appear with yet another character, but it did. It's a kick that has pretty much become the de facto kick that any character of any size is able to perform in films. A kick that has merited montages and songs, and right now merits one as well. Say it with me now. The push kick! As a matter of fact, Winter Soldier is so fond of using this kick that he's going to get a push kick montage of his own, just like Captain America. Without further ado, let's see if he can match Cap's record. Winter Soldier has thus used the kick for a grand total of 8 times so far in the MCU, almost tying Cap's record of 10, an impressive feat indeed. For an extensive analysis on the push kick and how it differs from the front kick, please check out How Many Fighting Styles Does Thanos Know? If you're enjoying this video so far, consider donating to my Patreon. As little as $1 helps me out tremendously in being able to make more videos for you guys. If you donate, you'll also get really cool rewards as well, such as finding out which are my upcoming videos and getting your name in the credits. Besides the punches and kicks that we've seen so far from Sistema, Winter Soldier also demonstrates knowledge of throwing very powerful elbow strikes on his attackers. And although I usually attribute this to Muay Thai, as it is a martial art which focuses in using your knees and elbows in combat, elbows once again fall under Sistema, as they also teach and encourage multiple elbow and knee techniques. A part of Sistema is devoted to takedowns, such as the ones that Winter Soldier employs, and many throws. Sistema focuses on not only disarming weapons, but in using them as well, and Winter Soldier is very adept at doing both. Here he can be seen disarming a weapon, for example. As far as his shooting abilities go, from his early days of pre-Winter Soldier Bucky, he was a formidable sniper. As a Winter Soldier, he's very skilled in using pistols, submachine guns, and assault rifles as well. His biggest, most awesome gun by far being the one he uses in Avengers Infinity War. The one that Rocket Raccoon so desperately wants to have. As you may have noticed, Winter Soldier demonstrates techniques that cross over with Muay Thai, whether it be using his elbows, using his knees to block kicks, or even kicking really low to the hamstrings and quadriceps, as Muay Thai practitioners are encouraged to do. But the technique that drove my decision in giving Winter Soldier Muay Thai as an additional fighting style separate from Sistema is how you're taught to block. In Sistema, they have extremely complex maneuvers to block, usually involving multiple strikes and joint locks. In Muay Thai, and this is something you will also see very often in UFC tournaments, it's a much more simple block. You simply raise your arms and basically cradle your head as if you're answering the telephone. It's a really great block because it can shield you from crosses and hooks. Boxers use a slightly modified version of this where they lower their elbows just a bit to protect themselves from body shots as well. Bringing all of this back to Winter Soldier, notice how he protects himself from Cap's crazy powerful shield attacks. See how he raises his arm and answers the telephone? Exactly how you're taught to block in Muay Thai. So in conclusion, how many fighting styles does Winter Soldier know? They are Bionic Arm, Sistema, Karate, Boxing, and Muay Thai. Which brings us to a grand total of 5 fighting styles. What did you think of Avengers Infinity War? What do you think of Sistema? What other characters would you like to see me analyze? Let me know in the comments below and subscribe so you can see when the next video premieres. See you next time.